morning, evening, or afternoon, everybody. It's Kaghoe coming at you with another video. So today, I want to take the time to talk about the best raid that Blizzard has ever done, and that is going to be Icecrown Citadel ICC. You know, you get to fight the greatest villain they've ever had, Arthas the Lich King. Just pretty much everything in Warcraft history had built up until this moment, creating a villain over a decade in the making, from the Warcraft games up into World of Warcraft, and even in Classic and TPC, you hear about him, you talk about him, you know his story, and this was probably one of the greatest things that they've ever done. I hope they even make a movie trilogy about it one day. But before we get into the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Everything you guys do helps my channel grow, helps me get discovered, and helps me help as many people as possible, which is the entire point of this channel. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So the biggest question that I have for Blizzard and you guys is, which ICC are we going to be given? It was such a massive raid. It lasted for over a year, I think a year and a half before Cataclysm even came out. And with Classic, they've had such an accelerated time schedule releasing all this stuff, that I doubt we're going to get that full year before Cata. But there were so many things that they did, so there's a question of which ICC are we going to get? And that brings us to our first thing. Are they going to make us clear it on normal before you can access heroic, and thus consuming your lockout? So that was a big thing, and this thing even went into Cataclysm and even Mist of Pandaria. For people coming here to farm Invincible and try to get the mounts, you still had to clear it on normal before you could put it on heroic, trying to get that Invincible mount. I remember it because I farmed it a ton, and I eventually did get it. But, it took me a while. And so it would be interesting to see if they make us do that. I hope not, because the player's skill is there. The raid is fully complete and balanced. So we, in theory, should be able to come in here and set it on heroic right away. The only thing that I think that changes is that there are more Shadowborn shards drop when you're doing it on heroic, so that could be a little thing that they might want to look at. If they do it or not, I don't know, but just something to consider. And then another thing that they implemented a ton were the attempt systems, similar to Anubarak and everything we did with that. Every boss at the end of a wing, even on normal, had an attempt system, and then I believe all the bosses on heroic had attempt systems, and so it was like 10 to 20 attempts per boss at first. So it'd be very interesting to see if Blizzard gives us that sort of attempt system that they played around with that we see now in TOGC, opposed to sort of what we have with heroics or normal, even, whether if you can just go in and kill the bosses. I don't think it'll be too much of a problem because the attempts are quite high. I can't remember a boss in the entirety of Classic. I've played since Classic launch, and I've gone all the way through here, and I can't remember a boss. Maybe Lady Vash would have been the only one completely unnerved, unreleased in TBC that might have hit that attempt limit. But to date, none really jump out at me as bosses where we did over 20 attempts at, and so that's just sort of that. Another thing is, are we going to get the full release for ICC? So back in the day, they released the first 4 bosses, or not the first 4, but up to Sourfang, up to Lord Sourfang. That is the first 4 bosses. And then they did it by wings. So then they did the Unholy, the Blood, the Frostwing, and then just sort of all of those a few weeks or a month after one another. So it'd be I hope they give us the full raid. I can't imagine that they release it in sections like that. They did not do it for Sunwell. Sunwell was also that, and it depended on your entire server doing the Isle of Quildanos and unlocking it. They completely ignored that and just let us go right for KJ right off the bat, which was very, very nice. I love to see that. Definitely more of a modern thing, especially since the Classic is replaying all the content. We have done all of it before. We have been in there, we have seen it, we've done it all, and we have tons of information about it. So there's not really much surprise or hype or suspense around it, as well as the fights are already curated and attuned to us going into them. Then finally, the big one, and now this is going to be very interesting because this could be an entire it could change how the raid goes, it could change how people perceive it, and it can change how easy or difficult the raid is going to be. And I am talking about, of course, Hellscream's Warsong, this buff right here. Now, in its final version, and that's the version you're looking at right here, health is increased by 30%, healing and absorption effects increased by 30%, and damage dealt increased by 30%. This was because people were struggling on the heroic modes and killing Lich King. Like, it took a very long time for people to kill 25 Lich King on heroic back in the day. I imagine he'll be killed day one. Now, you can talk to him and say, we do not want your buff right here, and then that would remove the buff, as you can see. So if you wanted to do it that way, you could, but most people are going to, there are very few guilds that want to do it with the challenge, like the hardest mode. People are just going to want their gear, and a 30% buff makes that very easy. Now, the big thing that people might not be aware of is it did not start at 30%. It was a gradual buff that they gave you 5% increase every 2 weeks to a month. So pretty much every patch, they just made it higher and higher and higher till more and more guilds killed it, and then it eventually stopped at 30% over a couple month period. So it'd be very interesting if they give us a 5 buff, 10% buff, let you set the buff to whatever you want it, or give us no buff at all. Me personally, I hope they give us no buff at all. Very similar to what they did with Vash and KT. I want the hardest version of this raid because I think the people can handle it. We've had over a decade of experience in raiding in World of Warcraft, and I think a lot of that and as we can see with all of pretty much all of Wrath, we have slaughtered the bosses. There's been a day one heroic mode, hardest mode, whatever, kill every single boss thus far. So it'd be really cool to give us the hardest version that we have ever seen and see if people struggle and get those kills. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I would love to hear what you guys think, what you're excited for, what any possibilities that we might encounter are. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. It truly means a lot to me. If you happen to find anyone that you know would also benefit from watching this video, please share it with them. It helps me out a ton and allows me to keep doing what I love every single day, and that is gaming and sort of helping people any way that I can. So finally, thank you so much, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Goodbye.